Getting stuck in awkward or uncomfortable positions in the bed is something we hear of quite a lot as physiotherapists. The bed is squidgy and hard to move around in compared to being on the floor, especially if you're weighed down by a duvet and if you're moving around half asleep or maybe in the morning when you're facing stiffer or more uncomfortable movements than you would when you're up and about. So having confidence in the technique of particular movements you need to move in bed might give you peace of mind. Practicing some of these in isolation when you're wide awake hopefully will give you some confidence when you need those things in the bed in the middle of the night.
Most movements we need to do to move around in the bed need one leg to be bent up. But that in itself can be quite a difficult movement for some. So just practice it in isolation. From this position with 2 knees bent up and your heels tucked in towards your bottom, going to work on keeping the pelvis pushed into the bed or the floor, wherever you are, and taking one foot away. Now we're going to need to bring that foot back in again. So if you know that your hip flexors are a bit weak, and it's hard for you to do that movement, and you might usually use your hand for it, just go as far as you can manage to then be able to come back in again and do this movement over a smaller range. If you can, we're going to aim to go a bit further or even all the way down to a straight leg. Then pull the heel back up towards your bottom all the way to the top before swapping legs and taking the other heel out as far as it feels comfortable for you. Now you'll feel as you do this, it really uses your tummy muscles as you take the leg out with control, and then really uses those hip flexors as well as the abdominals as you pull the leg back in. So to support those core muscles, imagine you're zipping your belly button in towards your spine. Keep breathing and take that foot away with control and then back in again. Now, this might take some practice, but we're aiming for smooth movement on the way out, as well as the way in. And we're aiming to keep both knees facing up towards the ceiling. So if when you do this, you know that one of your legs is shaking, I want you to try and resist that movement. Zip the belly button into the core and in towards your spine, and keep that knee really still as you pull the other leg back. Keep alternating the legs as far as you feel you're able to, and use this as a nice core stability exercise to do either in the bed, on the floor, or on your sofa. This next exercise is going to focus on the technique for rolling over in bed. So to be efficient in this movement, I want you to have one leg straight and one leg bent up. And the movement's going to come from pushing through this heel and me reaching across my body as I roll towards you. So imagine you're lying in the middle of a super king-size bed. And I want you to reach your hand to the corner of that bed as you push through this heel to help you roll over. Come back to the middle. We're going to do that again. Push through the heel and reach with the arm. And if it feels like a nice stretch when you get there, you probably need that stretch. So hold it if it feels nice on the rib cage and your shoulder. Make sure you reach up, not just across, to that corner of the bed. Each time pushing through this heel to switch on your bottom muscles and switch on your core by using the arm. Last one. Before you go to the other side, bring one leg up and take the other leg down. And then you're going to reach across you the other way and push through this heel this time. Take your head with you as you roll. And do a few repetitions on each side to get that technique nice and efficient. Remember, you're reaching up to the corner of the bed, not just across you. be able to move around efficiently in bed, you need to be able to lift your bottom off the bed. This is harder in a bed than on the floor because your feet will sink into the bed more. But have a go on your bed or warm up on the floor first and build up to doing it in the bed as you progress. So we're going to do a bridge movement here. First of all, I want you to tuck your tailbone underneath you. So you're just tucking your bottom underneath, lifting the bottom a tiny bit off the floor or bed, but not much. You're flattening the back into the bed as you do this. And we're going to build on that. I want you to imagine there's a strip of Velcro going down the length of your spine. It is also attached onto the bed. And we're going to peel the Velcro now off from the bottom of the spine and bit by bit, a little bit higher until you reach the shoulders. When you feel the pressure going through your shoulders, that's high enough. Then you're going to slowly stick the Velcro back down, but again, bit by bit, so that the middle of your back lands first and your bottom lands last. Let's do it again, peeling the bottom off, the middle of the back, and a little higher. You're not going to go as high as you can. Could go all the way up here, but we're going to stop the movement about 2/3 of the way through. Then slowly moving down segment by segment. And what we're working on here is switching on the core muscles. So again, zipping your belly button in towards your spine, but also keeping your pelvis level and steady. We want to do both those things as you push your heels into the floor and squeeze your bottom muscles together to give you the lift. And as you work on the flexibility of your spine, slowly going bit by bit down to the bed and peeling off bit by bit on the way up. So to add to this movement and replicate what you might need to do in the bed, you're going to keep the feet still and the knees still, but this time lift up just as you did before and move your hips to one side before you land. And you're going to be a little bit off center there. Lift the hips up again and land in the middle. Now we're going to go the other way. Try and keep the knees where they are and just take the hips and the bottom out to the side to land to one side. Up and back to the bottom. Now this is where you can start to move across the bed by moving your hips one way. You might then have to shimmy your shoulders over and follow with your feet, but that will help you reposition in bed. Lifting the hips up, moving to one side, or landing in the middle. As you do all of these movements, the aim is to keep your knees still and pointing to the ceiling. Try not to let the knees wobble or flop out to the side. You might have one side that's more tempted to do that than the other. So if you need to keep an eye on your knees as you do this, you could always use a pillow under your head to get a little bit more feedback. Pillow under your head. The feedback. This video is going to be looking at the technique you can use for a really efficient way of getting in and out of bed. So if that's something you struggle with, then this would be a good thing to practice in isolation when you're not too tired. So lying on your bed with your heels tucked in towards your bottom, the technique for getting out of bed starts like this. You're going to shift your bottom so that you're quite close to the edge first off, but give yourself enough room to be able to roll over to the side. Now that comes best from taking both knees over this time and taking your arm to the edge of the bed so that you know you're safe. From here, this is a nice position to be able to kick your legs towards the floor. So both legs can come down together like this, or you can use one leg to hook behind the other and help the weaker side to come down if you need to. From here, I want you to push with your hand and your bottom elbow to come up to being propped up on one arm. From here, you can use both hands again to come up to sitting. Now, it's that kicking the legs off the bed first, which really makes that last bit of the movement easier. To get into bed is exactly the same in reverse. So from sitting on the edge, you're going to lean onto your hand towards the pillow and come down to one elbow. From there, use both hands to help lower yourself down to the pillow. Both legs on at the same time. This is probably the hardest bit, but again, you can use one leg to help the other to get your heels on the bed. And once you're here, it's all about the roll. So take your shoulders back, take your knees back, and from there, you can adjust to get the right position. So to recap, tuck your heels in towards your bottom. Take your knees over and your hand over to the side of the bed to roll right onto your side. From here, all you have to do is kick your legs off. One movement on its own. One leg can help the other if needs be. And because your legs are down towards the floor already, gravity is going to help with the next part of the movement. Push through that hand and the other elbow. And because your heels down towards the floor, this bit of the movement is made easier, coming back all the way to sitting. You get into bed, you're going to stretch that hand towards your pillow. Go onto the elbow, lower your head down. Here's the tricky bit. Hook those feet onto the bed, and then everything rolls so you're lying on your back to reposition your hips. Now we're going to look at a more advanced exercise that you can do on the floor that will help you with lots of those elements of movement you might need in the bed. This is an adaptation of an exercise called the Turkish getup. So you'll need one leg straight and out to the side at a 45-degree angle, and the arm on the same side is going to match. Now, if you are stronger on one side than the other, I would make your stronger side the one to try this with first. The other hand's going to be on your tummy. And the first part of the movement is to come up and prop yourself on your elbow. You need to lift your head to do this, like so. Try and keep this hand on your tummy. And that movement in itself might be enough for you. So you could roll down and try a few of those, coming up to prop yourself up tall on your elbow and then back down. Tuck your chin, chest to come up. If you want to add to that, we can come to the elbow, then prop yourself up onto this hand, like so. After that, if you want to add a little bit more, you can push through your bent leg to lift your hips up towards the ceiling. You're then going to lower down and come down the exact same way that you went up. So lower to the elbow and lower to the floor. Now, this is a full body exercise that really engages the core and gets you coordinating both sides of the body together. So one more go, everything together, come up to the elbow, stick out your chest, up to the hand, stick out your chest, then up onto that foot, coming down to the hip, down to the elbow, and down to the floor. You could then try that on the other side and see how you get on.